If you're retiring in Southeast Asia, Thailand seems like the obvious choice. It's been attracting foreign retirees for decades. It has established expat communities, excellent private hospitals, affordable living, and retirement visas designed for people over 50. Malaysia? Most Americans barely put it on the list. But here's what's strange. Start comparing the things that actually determine whether retirement abroad works: healthcare, housing, language, infrastructure, and the basic friction of everyday life. And Malaysia starts beating expectations very quickly. In fact, it has advantages over Thailand that almost nobody talks about. But there's a catch. Malaysia also has one requirement that could eliminate it completely for some retirees. So is Malaysia actually better than Thailand? The answer depends on something much more important than which country is cheaper. Because retiring somewhere and vacationing there are two very different things. The real test is what happens when you have to live there every day. And Malaysia's first advantage shows up in the ordinary moments most people never think about until they move abroad. Imagine arriving in a new country. Finding an apartment is one thing. Now imagine setting up internet, calling your bank, explaining symptoms to a doctor, understanding instructions at a pharmacy, or fixing a billing problem. Those little interactions don't make retirement brochures, but string enough of them together and they can determine whether living abroad feels liberating or exhausting. And this is where Malaysia has an advantage many Americans underestimate. English is widely used, particularly in major cities, business, and private healthcare. Tourism Malaysia itself highlights the country's widespread use of English as part of its accessibility to international visitors. Of course, that doesn't mean everyone speaks English or that language barriers disappear. They don't. But there's a big difference between occasionally navigating a language barrier and structuring your entire life around one. Thailand has major tourist and expat areas where foreigners function comfortably every day. But Malaysia can make ordinary independence surprisingly easy. And as you get older, that convenience can become much more important than it sounds, especially when you need healthcare. Because this is the first category where Malaysia stops looking like the overlooked alternative and starts looking like a serious competitor. Thailand has earned its reputation for private healthcare. International hospitals in places like Bangkok are one reason retirees have been comfortable moving there for years. So Malaysia is competing against one of Thailand's genuine strengths. And surprisingly, it holds its own. Malaysia has a developed private hospital system and a substantial medical tourism industry of its own. Current private hospital pricing gives us something concrete to work with. Gleneagles lists basic health screening packages around 700 Malaysian ringgit, or about $170. Pantai Hospital in Kuala Lumpur lists packages beginning at roughly 680 ringgit, or about $165, with more comprehensive private hospital screenings exceeding 1,000 ringgit, or about $245. These are established private hospitals offering combinations of physician consultation, blood testing, ECGs, imaging, and other diagnostics. Thailand can offer excellent private care too. Malaysia doesn't win because Thailand somehow loses. What makes Malaysia interesting is that it combines modern private healthcare with the advantage we just talked about: English accessibility. For a retiree, being able to understand your doctor isn't a travel convenience, it's independence. Safety matters too. At the national level, Malaysia performs very strongly on broader measures of peace and security. In the 2026 Global Peace Index, Malaysia ranks 12th in the world, while Thailand ranks 101st. Comparable international homicide data also favor Malaysia. But that doesn't mean every Malaysian city is safer than every Thai city. Location matters. Places like Penang and Chiang Mai both perform well on commonly used city-level safety measures, while results vary considerably in larger cities and other retirement destinations. So the fairest conclusion isn't that Thailand is unsafe. It's that Malaysia has the stronger national-level safety indicators, while both countries have locations where retirees can feel very comfortable. But healthcare isn't why most Americans start researching retirement in Southeast Asia. Usually it starts with money. And this is where Malaysia's case gets even stronger. at least at first. Start with housing. Current cost of living estimates put a one-bedroom apartment in central Penang at roughly 1,650 ringgit per month, or about $400 dropping to around 940 ringgit, or about $230 outside the center. In Kuala Lumpur, the estimates are roughly 2,600 ringgit, or about $635 in the center, and 1,500 ringgit, or about $365 outside it. Obviously, those aren't guaranteed rents. Neighborhood, building quality, furnishing, and lease terms all matter. But the bigger point isn't one apartment price, it's what Malaysia combines around it. Relatively affordable housing, modern cities, private healthcare, widespread English, major airports, restaurants, shopping, and infrastructure that don't require an American retirement budget. Put all of that together and you might start wondering, why isn't Malaysia the obvious retirement choice instead of Thailand? And that's exactly where this comparison changes. Because so far, we've been talking about whether you can afford to live in Malaysia. We haven't talked about what it takes to actually stay there. And those are two very different questions. Malaysia's national long-stay program is called Malaysia My Second Home, MM2H. And if you've seen older videos about it, be careful. The program has changed substantially. Under the current national silver category, an applicant must place $150,000 into a fixed deposit with a Malaysian financial institution. For a married couple, that does not mean two separate $150,000 deposits. A spouse can be included as a dependent under the principal applicant, and that's not the only requirement. After receiving approval, participants in that category must also purchase a Malaysian residence valued at least 600,000 ringgit, or roughly $147,000. The Silver Pass lasts 5 years and can be renewed. Participants can withdraw up to 50% of the fixed deposit after approval for specified purposes, including the residence purchase, medical expenses, education, or tourism-related activities in Malaysia. That sounds like it could end the comparison right there. But Malaysia has another option. For applicants age 50 and older, there is also a special economic zone and special financial zone version of MM2H. That route lowers the required fixed deposit dramatically to $32,000. It also provides a 10-year renewable pass, and for participants age 50 and older, there is no minimum annual stay requirement. But there's a major catch. Under the current rules, participants using this route must purchase and own a residence in Forest City, Johor, at the property price required under Johor's acquisition rules. Forest City is a modern, master-planned waterfront development in Johor near Singapore, with newer condominiums, resort-style amenities, golf, and a quieter atmosphere. But it is much less established and less urban than places like Kuala Lumpur or Penang, so the lower financial barrier comes with a real lifestyle trade-off. And that residence generally cannot be sold for 10 years. So Malaysia does have a much cheaper path than the national silver category, but the lower financial barrier comes with a significant restriction on the required property. And that makes the comparison with Thailand more interesting. For Thailand's non-immigrant OA retirement visa, official requirements use financial evidence of at least 800,000 Thai baht on deposit, roughly $24,000, or monthly income of at least 65,000 baht, roughly $1,960, along with the route's other requirements. That's still a very different structure. Thailand offers a comparatively accessible retirement route without tying that financial threshold to a required home purchase in Forest City. And it creates a strange paradox. A retiree could potentially find everyday life in Malaysia extremely affordable, but find the national silver category too expensive, while the lower-cost special zone route may not fit where they actually want to live. That distinction matters. The cost of living somewhere and the cost of qualifying to live there are not the same thing. And when it comes to flexibility and financial accessibility of these retirement routes, Thailand still has the advantage. So has Thailand just won? Not necessarily, because now we finally know who Malaysia is really competing for. Malaysia isn't necessarily the better choice for someone trying to retire abroad with very little savings, or someone who wants maximum flexibility in where they buy a home. Its residency requirements can work against that person. But change the retiree, and the entire comparison changes. Imagine someone with retirement savings or other assets. Their biggest concern isn't simply, what's the absolute cheapest place I can live? They're thinking about the life they'll actually have once they get there. Can I communicate easily? Can I get good health care? Can I manage daily life independently? Can I find comfortable housing? Is the infrastructure good? Could I realistically live here for years instead of simply enjoying it for a month? For that retiree, Malaysia becomes a much more serious competitor to Thailand. The MM2H requirements don't disappear. The National Silver route is still a substantial hurdle, while the lower-cost Special Zone route comes with its Forest City property restriction. But once that hurdle becomes financially realistic, something important happens. Malaysia's advantages start stacking on top of each other. English accessibility makes everyday problems easier to solve. That same accessibility carries into private healthcare. Relatively affordable housing sits alongside modern infrastructure. And all of it can reduce the amount of friction involved in simply living your life. That's the case for Malaysia that gets lost when the comparison focuses only on cost. Because once both countries are affordable to you, the question changes. It's no longer, which country is cheaper? It becomes, which country is easier for me to actually live in? And for the right retiree, that's where Malaysia can beat Thailand. But Thailand still has something Malaysia can't recreate overnight. Thailand has decades of momentum. Foreign visitors and long-term residents have been building lives there for years. It has established retirement routes for people over 50 and a long history of serving international visitors. That creates something Malaysia can't simply manufacture: familiarity. For someone researching retirement abroad from the United States, Thailand feels proven. You've heard about foreigners retiring there. You've watched the videos. Maybe you've already visited. There's comfort in choosing a path thousands of foreigners have already taken. Malaysia doesn't carry that same retirement identity among Americans. And depending on your personality, that could matter a lot. Cultural fit matters too. Malaysia is a diverse, multicultural country shaped by Malay, Chinese, Indian, and indigenous influences, with Islam playing an important role in Malaysian society. And just as Thailand isn't one uniform lifestyle, neither is Malaysia. So anyone telling you Malaysia simply beats Thailand is oversimplifying the decision. But now we can answer the question we started with. If you want the more financially accessible and flexible of these retirement routes, Thailand has the advantage. If you're attracted to a country with decades of foreign retiree familiarity, Thailand makes an extremely strong case. And if you already love Thailand's culture and lifestyle, no spreadsheet is going to make Malaysia automatically better for you. But suppose your priorities are different. You have enough assets for the national MM2H route, or you're comfortable with the restrictions of the lower-cost Special Zone option. You care a lot about communicating in English. Healthcare becomes increasingly important as you age. You want modern infrastructure. You want relatively affordable housing. And you value being able to manage ordinary life overseas with as little friction as possible. For that retiree, Malaysia may actually be the better fit. And notice what happened. Malaysia didn't win because Thailand turned out to be bad. Thailand is still one of Southeast Asia's strongest retirement destinations. Malaysia became interesting because we stopped asking which country was more famous and started asking which one better matched the retiree. So, is Malaysia actually better than Thailand for retirement? For everyone? No. Thailand's combination of a more accessible financial threshold and greater flexibility is a serious advantage. And Malaysia's MM2H requirements can still eliminate the country for some retirees, either because the National Silver route requires substantial capital or because the lower-cost Special Zone route requires a Forest City property. But if you have the assets to clear that hurdle, the comparison changes. Because Malaysia combines something that's surprisingly difficult to find in one place: English accessibility, modern private healthcare, relatively affordable housing, strong infrastructure, and the ability to navigate ordinary life with less friction. Thailand gets most of the retirement attention, and for plenty of retirees, it deserves it. But the better retirement destination isn't necessarily the one everyone already knows. It's the one that better fits the life you're actually trying to live. And for the right retiree, that place may be Malaysia.